My fiancé said medical school was too hard for my female brain. But I excelled at my job and earned a medical school scholarship from his company. Medical school was too difficult for my female brain, so my fiancé suggested hospitality. On his job, I proved him wrong. I was admitted into medical school after 3 years together and 8 months engaged to Jake. To do this, I took the necessary classes, volunteered at hospitals, studied for the MCAT for months, and received letters of recommendation from instructors who believed in me since high school. I cried happy tears when I got the admission letter, thinking of becoming a doctor. I immediately called Jake, expecting his approval. Instead, he paused and suggested we meet to discuss this. I was seated when he came over that night, as if to deliver bad news. He thought medical school wasn't feasible for us. He indicated the minimum time between school and residency was 5 years, which would delay our lives. We could make it, I told him. Many pairs did. After shaking his head, he continued. Those couples didn't last because the woman got too focused on her career and forgot about her family. I'd ditch him the moment I put on a white coat. He advised I study human resources or hotel management. He stated that jobs were beneficial for women because they had regular hours and weren't too demanding with kids. I thought he was joking, but his look seemed serious. He opened his phone and showed me divorce rates for female doctors and how many became single and childless. That wasn't his want for me or us. Since I was 8, seeing my grandma suffer from cancer while her doctor rescued her, I wanted to be a doctor. His dreams change when you grow up and become engaged. He said his sister Emily was pleased as an administrative assistant, and his mother Susan never worked. Both were fulfilled women. Fighting over this continued for weeks. My desk had business program brochures from him. He would remark every tired-looking female doctor we saw may be me in 8 years, exhausted and alone. I met his co-worker's wife, who abandoned nursing school to support her husband and looked pleased. Medical school would make me rigid and unfeminine, he said. Why bother? Patients don't appreciate female doctors, he remarked. He explained to his folks that I was considering medical school like a mad phase. According to his mother, Jake was worried about my rash judgments. He received papers from his father about unhappy marriages for women who earn more than their spouses. Jake sent me notes to consider. He became cruel. He said I wasted time studying for my biology final. I was asked if I was looking for a rich doctor to replace him when I shadowed hospital doctors. Jake told a buddy we weren't planning a wedding until I got over my medical fantasy. He publicly called it my little medical phase. When he said he wouldn't pay for my wedding if I went to medical school, I snapped. He refused to celebrate a fatal marriage that started. He claimed I'd choose a career that was good for our relationship if I loved him. He printed and completed the first page of the local community college's hospitality program form for me. I recognized then that he'd never consider me equal. I went to medical school without telling him. Deferred for 2 months to evaluate. The medical supplies firm, where Jake was a sales manager, hired me. He was happy that I quit medical school to be with him. I let him think I was the top sales associate in 2 months because, unlike Jake, I knew medical equipment. Doctors requested me because I could answer their questions with information, not sales pitches. Michael, the firm owner, asked me to become regional sales coordinator. Jake was upset because he wanted that job. Michael suggested he be more competent if he understood medicine as I did. Michael stated they would finance one employee to go medical school part-time at the Christmas celebration. This curriculum was made for me because I raised their sales by 35% in 4 months by knowing what I was talking about. Jake became pale. After Michael's declaration, the room goes silent, and everyone stares at Jake's motionless face. Despite wanting to leap up and scream, I maintain my expression calm and professional. My heart is pounding so hard, people can hear it. Michael says the corporation will cover my tuition and books, while I work reduced hours, and underlines how my medical knowledge has improved customer connections and sales. A coworker nudges Jake and says something, but he just stares at his plate like a stone. As Michael talks about how I increased sales by 35% in 4 months, by understanding the equipment instead of memorizing scripts, I notice his jaw tighten and unclench. The other sales managers are nodding and smiling at me, and some are looking at Jake like they understand. Coworkers shake my hand and touch my shoulder after the news. Jake leaves out the side door without saying a word, and I feel relieved and satisfied that I don't have to confront him. Michael pulls me aside and wants to discuss the sponsorship and my new schedule Monday morning. He makes me feel appreciated like Jake never did by taking joy in my achievements. Apparently, I've raised the bar for the sales team, And additional employees are asking about training. I realize everything when I drive home alone that night. Attending medical school. My employer values my skills. Just saw Jake's attitude explode in front of everyone we work with. I jiggle my steering wheel as I enter my driveway. After telling my best friend everything, she yells with joy and I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She claims to have known I could do it and that Jake was incorrect about me. I'm pleased Jake doesn't come home that night because I need time to comprehend everything without him manipulating it. I spent the evening staring at my medical school acceptance letter from months ago in my desk drawer. And I finally felt the utter thrill I had when it arrived. Reading it 3 times, I touched the paper like it could disappear. I arrive early Monday morning to meet with Michael, who has an HR representative review my new contract and timetable. They aim to have me work 2 days a week on important accounts and train new sales staff, which will pay my wage and provide me time to study. HR says my benefits will stay, and I'll get a little raise for my new training duties. After signing the paperwork, I feel like I've changed my life. Jake arrives late at work looking exhausted and avoids eye contact with me and others. Because everyone knows what happened at the party, and can hear whispers about him trying to keep me from medical school, the office is uneasy. 2 younger salespeople ask about the sponsorship program at my desk, and Jake watches from across the room with a sinister look. Despite being Jake's sister, Emily calls me at lunch, surprising me because we've never been close. She says she heard, and is proud of me for not letting Jake stop my dreams. Strangely, her voice is less cautious, and more honest. Jake's parents persuaded her to take the administrative position, and she sometimes regrets not finishing her degree. Watching me fight Jake made her realize she'd been making excuses for years for not going back to school. That afternoon, Jake confronts me in the break room, looking angry and embarrassed. Low, tight voice asks how long I've been plotting this betrayal. I calmly say I didn't betray anyone. I quit letting him decide my life. He claims he was protecting me from making a mistake, and that medical school will wreck my life. I explain that his concern was never about me, and that I've shown I can handle medical information better than him. Self-esteem and control were involved. Moving closer, his face turns crimson, and I smell coffee on his breath. He claims I'm selfish and wasting our future for some stupid degree. I tell him our only future was me shrinking to make him feel bigger, and I'm done. When I finish, he steps back and makes fists at his sides. The break area feels too small, the fluorescent lights buzz too loud, and I can smell burnt coffee from a long overused burner. After opening his lips to yell, he closes it and looks about like he's realized we're at work and anyone can come in. In an agitated whisper, he says we need couples counseling to resolve this. He argues we can't waste 3 years on a professional dispute. He still doesn't comprehend it, therefore I feel cold. Not for his career, I tell him. He spent months saying my brain is too feminine to grasp difficult stuff. Since it's not a communication issue, counseling can't help. Respect issue. He tries to dispute, but I go by him, and go back to my desk to respond to client emails while shaking my hands as I type. That night, I drive home and sit in my driveway for 10 minutes before I can get inside. Unlock the door, and go to the bedroom closet to get the empty boxes on top. I began gathering Jake's belongings because I can't live with someone who spent months telling me I wasn't smart enough for my aspirations. I pack his shoes, cologne, and sales training books he never read, and fold his shirts in boxes. I hear his key enter the lock while taping the 3rd package. Arriving home, he stares at the boxes against the wall at the bedroom doorway. Suddenly pale and red, he asks what I'm doing. I pack his belongings because we're done. He accepts that this is over for the first time since it began. I keep packing while he sits on the bed, with his head in his hands. Next morning, he tries something new. He suddenly claims he's always supported my medical school goals as he sits across from me at the kitchen table in a composed voice. He claims I'm misremembering his worries, and that he was worried about work and stress. I find the 2-month-old voice memo on my phone. I press play and his voice fills the kitchen, saying female doctors are unfeminine and unhappy and patients don't appreciate them. He becomes white listening to himself and can't deny it. That weekend, he leaves with his boxes, furnishings, and last year's coffee maker. His folks keep calling to persuade me. They think Jake is distraught and I'm nasty. Susan has the gall to imply I'm wasting a wonderful man on pride. Self-respect, not pride, motivates me to use my intelligence. 2 weeks pass in a whirl of paperwork, apartment cleaning, and preparing for my biggest move. On my first day of medical school, I wake up at 5 a.m. Even though class starts at 9. Driving to campus, I park in the student lot, and walk toward the medical education building with my new backpack and orientation folder. I feel like I'm finally living my dream life as I enter the building. No one disputes my female brain's ability to handle the information in the lobby of enthusiastic and nervous first-year students. I sit in the third row of my designated classroom, and a woman introduces herself and asks what specialty I'm interested in. Michael has been great helping me balance work and school, which is harder than planned. When I have exams, my coworkers cover accounts and text me good luck. Jake was relocated to a different territory because too many clients asked why I wasn't representing them. I hear from office gossip that he protested to Michael about the reassignment, but Michael said clients make the requests and the company follows them. 2 weeks into the semester, I meet Jake's friend at a campus coffee shop. He spots me studying at a corner table, while waiting for his order, and approaches over seeming uncomfortable. Without asking, he sits down and awkwardly says Jake has been telling people I cheated on him and we broke up. Angry but unsurprised. Jake can't accept that his behavior ruined the relationship, so he makes me the villain. Due to my 6 months selling medical equipment, I'm doing better in anatomy class the next week. I raise my hand and discuss how different specialties prefer distinct handle grips based on their procedures, while my professor explains surgical tool design. She stops and asks how I know, so I tell her I sell. She compliments my practical application of theory, and assures me that real-world experience produces better doctors after class. Michael requests that I teach the salesperson, who will replace my territory. I spend the day showing her how medical knowledge simplifies sales. I discuss anatomical reasons for tool shapes, and how to talk to surgeons about their needs instead of reading product specifications. I told her how the equipment works and why doctors need it, unlike other sales managers who merely remember scripts. Regional Coordinator Jake's replacement begins the following Monday. Olivia Hopkins, a nurse, has 8 years of hospital experience. In the morning meeting, we immediately bond over medicine. She visits my desk after the meeting to inform me Michael wanted someone with healthcare experience after seeing how much it mattered. Working with someone who knows both sides of the business excites her. After 3 months, I'm doing well at my decreased job schedule and retaining decent grades. By email, my anatomy professor praises my recent exam score, and my biochemistry lab companion says I explain topics better than the teaching assistant. 2 other committed women in my class study with me, and their partners text them support and bring them coffee during late-night cramming. One of them sends me a message from her fiancé indicating he's proud of her hard work, which is different from Jake's response. The partner finds her ambition beautiful, not intimidating. The other woman's fiancé is also in graduate school, so they question each other on their subjects and cooperate on their education. Their behavior shows that Jake wasn't normal, or protective as he stated. Small and controlling, it kept me from growing past him. I hear Jake is dating again in the office. Someone indicates she works reception at one of our customer hospitals during a sales presentation. Olivia later tells me the woman never went to college and answers phones and schedules appointments at the front desk. Because I know Jake will do it. I feel awful for her. He'll be nice at first, then quietly advise she don't need that online course or promotion. He'll say she's perfect as she is, and keep her where he can manipulate her. Most of all, I'm glad I'm not her. Emily randomly texts me on Tuesday afternoon to meet for coffee. It's surprising because we haven't chatted much since the breakup save for awkward company Christmas party small talk. I accept, and we meet Saturday morning near my flat. When I sit down, she appears apprehensive and talks quickly like she's practicing. She told me she's been thinking about our last talk, and how I didn't let Jake stop me from medical school. She's been an administrative assistant for 8 years. But she wants to be an accountant. Although she's always been brilliant with statistics, Jake's parents convinced her that administrative employment was more stable. Her courage came from witnessing me fight Jake, so she told me she started night classes 2 weeks ago to get her degree. I'm surprised, proud, and disappointed she settled for a job for a decade. We talked for 2 hours about her classes and objectives, and I realized Jake's family has odd beliefs about women. Mother never worked, and father believes that's wonderful. Emily wanted to study business, but Susan said accounting was too math-intensive for most women. The same bullshit Jake told me about medical school being too hard for women. Family customs keep women small and manageable. My metabolic pathways biochemistry unit stalled. I spend 3 nights studying the same chapter without understanding it because the content is hard and complex. I stare at Krebs cycle diagrams at my workstation at 2 a.m. and think about Jake suggesting medical school would be too hard for me. He may have been right, but I'm too obstinate to acknowledge it. I recall that 6 months ago I knew nothing about medical equipment beyond first aid. After learning about surgical equipment, diagnostic machines, and patient monitoring systems, I outsold experts. Complex medical vocabulary, anatomy, and specialty equipment were taught. If I can learn it in 6 months while working full-time, I can learn biochemistry. I use flashcards, videos, and ask my lab partner to clarify. It clicks by week's end. After I pass, my professor puts excellent work on my paper. Michael asks me to speak at the next company-wide meeting about how medical knowledge promotes client relationships. I must demonstrate to the sales team how understanding science helped me solve difficulties and close deals. A week goes into creating a sales case presentation. I mention a surgeon who was upset with a laparoscopic tool, and I suggested an alternate based on the process. I demonstrate equipment better by knowing anatomy than reading specifications. Understanding sterilization helped me solve hospital infection control challenges. All sales workers must attend the meeting, including Jake. He enters and sits in the back row with his arms folded. As Michael introduces me and I present, Jake's expression tightens as I give each case. I'm exhibiting knowledge he never earned, since he memorized scripts. Not comprehending. Requested reads are on Spotify. Link in description or comments. Jake sits looking like he wants to disappear while other salespeople take notes and ask questions. After my presentation, 2 employees ask Michael about education. Each aspires to pursue nursing or medical technology. Michael beams and tells the room he's considering making the sponsorship scheme permanent because it's enhanced the company's performance. He acknowledges me publicly and says, "I changed the culture around professional development and made everyone think about growing their skills." I realize my impact goes beyond my own accomplishment. My approach to education and knowledge is altering the company. In my 4th month, my medical school advisor asks about my past. I describe how I went into medical supplies, sales, and she listens and takes notes. Unlike most doctors and salespeople, I understand both the medical and financial sides of medical equipment, she adds. She suggests I build or improve surgical tools, or work with corporations to improve equipment. The notion intrigues me since it would blend all I've learnt into something new. It's a road I wouldn't have found if Jake talked me into hotel management. Curiosity leads me to accept Jake's new girlfriend's social media friend request. Her public profile shows her community college online business course posts. Her posts are enthusiastic, but Jake's replies follow. He writes, "Don't stress yourself out with this, and you're already perfect without a degree, and make sure you're not neglecting us for homework." The same dominating stupidity he told me. Despite thinking about emailing her to warn her, I know she won't believe me. He undoubtedly appears protective and kind. Like me, she must find things out. I receive an email 6 months into medical school requesting me to speak at a prospective student event regarding work-life balance. I'm asked to relate my medical school experience while working. I agree and tell frightened prospective students about my journey in the evening. Someone told me I wasn't capable, so I almost gave up my dreams. I discuss how working at the medical supply firm benefited me in school. Managing everything was difficult, but my employer helped. After my discussion, several young women thank me for sharing my story. A woman approaches me aside and says her boyfriend has been saying similar things about her nursing school intentions. He kept telling her it's too hard, and she should do something easy, and she was believing him. His doubts are about him, not her, she says, after hearing my story. She has my email, and can contact me for support. After Michael announced the medical school sponsorship, the business Christmas party returns exactly 1 year later. I wear my first scholarship dress to the event. Michael quickly finds me and pulls me aside before the program. He confirms that he will publicly acknowledge my first semester success, and wants me to be comfortable, for real. I tell him I am. Company growth and client pleasure are his annual speech topics. Then he mentions educational sponsorship. His words, "I completed my first semester of medical school with excellent grades, while still performing well at work. I proved that investing in employees who want to grow is good for everyone." The group applauds, and several coworkers congratulate me. Jake misses this year's gathering. He told Michael he had a family duty, but everyone knows he didn't want to be there. Olivia informed me. His presence isn't missed. At this gathering last year, I was nervous, excited, and seeing his face become white with amazement. My pride, gratitude, and anticipation for the future fill me this year. Grades arrive in my student site 3 weeks after final exams. My hands shake when I click the link to examine my findings at my kitchen table with my laptop open. I see them one by one after the page loads slowly. Medical terms, anatomy, physiology, a biochemistry minus an introduction to clinical practice. I make the dean's list for academic excellence with my GPA. Part of me can't believe I did this, so I gaze at the computer for a minute. I print the dean's list certificate and take it to the frame shop that afternoon. I say, "No. It's mine." When the counter woman asks whether it's for my daughter, she exuberantly congratulates me. The framed certificate hangs above my desk in my home office, where Jake used to tell me I was wasting my time studying stuff my female brain couldn't handle. I still remember his white face at that Christmas gathering when I saw it. The next weekend, my folks drive up for a celebration meal. My dad hugs me in the restaurant parking lot and cheers me on for not letting anyone extinguish my light. My mom cries and says she knew I could. We discuss my favorite classes and next semester throughout the meal. Work and how Michael supports my schedule are asked. I mention my reduced hours and new sales crew training. In toast to his future doctor daughter, my dad lifts his glass. I feel warmth in my chest that I never had with Jake. Olivia and I have lunch every Thursday at the office cafe. She's friendly and doesn't demand me prove myself as Jake did. At one lunch, she tells me something new. Before launching the medical school sponsorship program, Michael worked with her to ensure work-school balance. After reviewing my sales and client comments, she convinced him I was worth it. She left a job where her employer made similar comments about women in healthcare to Jake. He believed women were too emotional to make effective medical decisions, and that nursing was fine for women, but anything beyond that was stretching it. Her workplace favors expertise over gender, which she likes. She thanks me for showing that medical knowledge improves salesmen regardless. I understand that her friendship means more to me than Jake's backing, because she sees me as capable, not someone who needs protection from my goals. My hospital clinical observation day is late January Tuesday morning. First time donning scrubs. I feel like I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be. I'm walking through cardiology when someone calls my name. Turning around, I notice Dr. Harris, one of the doctors who used to request me when I sold equipment. He's thrilled when I tell him I'm in medical school and says he knew I had the drive. He offers me to shadow him during his procedures in the coming months. He says I was the only sales rep who understood their needs and why. I could explain how the equipment will interact with their systems and improve patient outcomes, but most reps merely read spec sheets. I instantly accept his offer and exchange contact information, so he may add me to his operation schedule. As I leave the hospital, everything seems to be coming into place. On a Saturday afternoon, Jake's parents arrive to my place without notice. Susan and Jake's father is uncomfortable when I open the door. Even though I don't want to talk, I let them in when Susan asks. Susan sits on my couch and begins talking about Jake's struggles and the family's concerns. He's been aloof and won't discuss our relationship, she adds. She then says I left him wrong, and that he was simply looking out for me. I remain cool, and say their son spent months warning me my brain couldn't withstand medical school. Showing them my framed Dean's List certificate on my wall, I said I'm proving him wrong every day. He didn't want a partner, I say. A little person would make him feel big. I stopped Jake's father from saying he wanted me to have a happy life. Their son warned me patients don't respect female doctors and medical school will make me hard and unfeminine. I say he printed hospitality management applications and filled out the first page for me like I was a toddler who couldn't decide. Susan stands and says they should leave, turning red. They walk to the door, and Jake's father mutters about kids not understanding compromise. After closing the door, I'm pleased to no longer have to pretend to be tiny. Advanced courses in my second semester push me more. Pathophysiology challenges me to comprehend cellular disease mechanisms. Pharmacology entails learning hundreds of medication interactions and mechanisms. Since I learned how to manage my time and ask for help in the first semester, I'm challenged, but never overwhelmed. My study group is close pals that help each other through difficult subject. We met twice a week at the library and took turns teaching ideas until everyone understood. My late-night study companion is engaged to a teacher who serves us coffee and never complains about academics. A nursing husband helps her practice physical exam procedures at home. I'm glad for a community that supports each other. We support each other through tough times and celebrate triumphs. I now see a supportive environment. During my second semester, my lecturer assigns a medical device innovation research project. I recall my sales career in an instant. I told her after class that I sold medical equipment and still had ties with local doctors and medical practices. She smiles and suggests this may be a thesis project combining clinical practice and device development. My commercial and medical knowledge sets me apart from most medical students, who only see equipment clinically. She advises I explore how user feedback might improve device design and safety. I spent that evening identifying doctors and equipment to interview. I look forward to creating something significant from my past experience and current studies. On Wednesday morning, Michael invites me into his office to inform me the company wants to use my narrative in recruiting. They aim to show potential hires that the organization provides professional development and invests in growth. I agree to show other ladies that you can achieve large goals despite doubts. The next week, the recruiting director asks about my sales associate to medical student journey. I'll admit I almost quit my dream. I tell her Jake worked on my hospitality management applications, and about my months of being told my brain couldn't handle complex subjects. Michael noticed my ability and gave me a life-changing chance. She says the interview will inspire many and records it. After leaving her office, I hope my struggle will inspire someone to follow their dreams. Emily calls me Thursday night with a strange voice. She received acceptance into the community college's accounting department and will begin school in the fall. She breaks down and says her parents are mad at her for returning to school at 32. Susan warned her she's too old to start afresh and should focus on marriage rather than job. Emily praises me for demonstrating her you can always pursue your dreams. Remembering that she took the brave choice. I went first. I tell her my worries and fears, and how Jake almost convinced me to quit. She laughed and said we're proof that Jake's family's ladies are stronger than expected. We talked about her accounting and my medical classes for over an hour, and I'm proud of us for not being small. It turns out my unconventional path to medical school affords me benefits over other students. In March, I noticed Jake across the exhibit hall while assisting Olivia present at a medical conference. He's passing booths looking at new gear and hasn't spotted me. Jake walks by Olivia and me setting up our booth near the main entrance. He stops and changes expressions quickly when he sees me. He seems uncomfortable and turns down a different aisle to escape me. But the conference is small, and we find up in the same elevator 20 minutes later. He's staring at me from the corner of his eye in the awkward stillness. As we approach the main floor, he murmurs that I'm doing great. I say, thank you, and leave without looking back. And from Olivia is anticipating me at the registration counter, and lifts her eyebrows. We conclude the presentation at our booth, after I shake my head, and tell her it wasn't important. Jake disappears after the conference goes well. Thinking about him no longer makes me furious or hurt. I'm grateful I chose myself rather becoming tiny for others. In late April, my anatomy professor asks me about summer research after class. She says the hospital needs someone who understands medical theory and practice to test new surgical instruments. When I say I sold medical equipment, her eyes brighten up. Since most medical students can describe how equipment should work in theory but not in operating rooms, she thinks that's exactly what they need. The hospital conference room interview occurs 3 days later. 2 surgeons and a research coordinator across from me quiz me about gadget design and surgery. I show what a sample laparoscopic tool accomplishes, and the usual technical concerns surgeons have with that model, and how the manufacturer tries to remedy them in the newer version. One surgeon says, they've interviewed 8 candidates, and nobody else could discuss the practical sales perspective like I just did. They give me the job right away, with a stipend to decrease my work hours in half next year. After leaving that hospital, I feel like everything is falling into place. 2 weeks later, Olivia summons me into her medical supply company office. Her promotion to director of sales prompts her to discuss modifications. She tells me that seeing my achievement over the previous year was crucial to her from behind her new desk. I showed that understanding medical science improves sales force performance, despite the company's training to memorize scripts and product specs. She's implementing medical education training instead of sales approaches. In the company-wide change communication, she personally credits me. 3 former coworkers visited my desk to thank me over the next 2 days. A corporate employee says he always felt bad answering doctors' queries with rehearsed answers, but now they're learning the science behind their products. In early May, the medical school invites me to a Women in Medicine panel. I relate my experience at a platform in front of a packed auditorium, about almost abandoning up because someone said my brain couldn't manage the intricacy. The brochures on my desk, divorce rates, and the hospitality management application with the first page filled out are discussed. The room is hushed as I talk. A first-year student claimed her father informed her medical school would make her unmarriageable during the Q&A. She jumps up and says her spouse called her selfish for choosing school before family. A back row professor describes colleagues who questioned her place in academic medicine. So many people want to share their experiences. We stay 30 minutes longer than planned. About a dozen kids compliment me for being honest about how close I came to choosing the lesser life someone else desired for me. We've accumulated enough data for a manuscript in 2 months, because my research role starts in June. Nights after work, I analyze surgeon comments on device design issues, and write up our results. On the study about improving surgical gadget design based on real-world usage patterns, the primary researcher names me second author. In September, my name appears in a medical publication. And I realize I'm still in my second year of medical school. Michael requests a copy of the story, and frames it to hang in the business lobby with top sales performance. One morning before work, I stood in front of that frame, and remember the girl who almost went into hotel management to save a relationship with someone who thought she wasn't smart enough. Emily texted me in October to invite me to her accounting diploma graduation. I spend the afternoon watching her come across the small platform to receive her certificate in a hotel conference room. I'm the loudest cheerer as she beams. She then introduces me to her high school math teacher boyfriend. He shook my hand and said, "Emily always mentions me." He finds her ambition and desire to learn attractive. He stares at her with pride and respect while we observe. I am so glad she met someone who values her smarts instead of wanting her to stay tiny. I hear workplace rumors from a former coworker in November. Jake lost his girlfriend. She informed numerous office mates that he was dictatorial and disrespectful when she discussed her professional objectives. She desired a real estate license as a receptionist at one of our client offices, but Jake kept telling her it was a waste of money, that she wasn't good at sales. My coworker says the girlfriend told her buddy, who told someone else, that Jake made her feel silly for having ambitions. It verifies what I already knew. Therefore I feel relieved. He didn't pick on me or medical school's demands. His behavior toward women who want more is consistent. His partners must be smaller than him since he can't manage someone who may outgrow or succeed him. August begins my third year of medical school, and I begin clinical rotations in the hospital where I shadowed doctors in sales. Assigned to cardiology for my first rotation. One attending doctor stares at me mid-rounds on my second day. When I tell him I sold cardiac monitors, his face lights up, telling the other residents that I was the only sales rep who understood their needs and why. Another doctor claims he always knew I was a doctor, not a salesman, over lunch. From my queries and equipment explanations, he thinks I was thinking like a clinician even then. Michael retires at a September corporate meeting. It's 72 and he wants to see his grandchildren. Everyone applauds Olivia's appointment as business president. Olivia pledges to increase educational sponsorship from 1 employee per year to 5 at her first meeting as president. She stands at the front of the conference room and says, "Investing in people's progress is good business and ethical." She says, "I prove that educated employees bring more value to the company and to their clients. I inspired the company culture shift from sales volumes to knowledge and competence." My surgery rotation in October involves using laparoscopic equipment I sold. The monitor flickers while the surgeon removes a gallbladder. This model has a connection port issue, which I note to the scrub nurse before she calls for a replacement. Resetting it involves unplugging and rejoining the cable in a certain order. When the surgeon follows my advice, the picture clears instantly. I'm pulled aside in the hallway after surgery and asked about my background. He says, "My path is unusual, but it makes me a more well-rounded doctor." He adds, "Most medical students only see equipment as tools, but I understand the engineering and the business side too." My Step 1 medical board exam scores arrive in November. I open the email at my kitchen table and discover my 90th percentile score. Jake said medical school was too hard for my female brain. I think about him saying I'd never make it through, and that I was wasting my time studying subjects I'd never use. I frame the score report and hang it on my wall next to my first semester Dean's List certificate to remind me of everything I could do. In early March, my advisor calls me into her office and closes the door behind me with an excited look. She displays a document on her computer and turns it toward me. I was mentioned to the program directors because of my published research and medical sales experience in a new residency program on surgical device innovation that starts next year. She says my clinical skills, research experience, and real-world understanding of medical device use make me an ideal candidate for this program, leaving me stomach-flipped because this sounds like the career path I never knew existed but now can't imagine doing anything else. It's a competitive program with only 4 spots nationwide. but she thinks I have a good chance if I apply. I leave her office and start researching the program, reading about how residents work with engineers and surgeons to improve and develop new devices. I think about how Jake wanted me to quit medicine. I attend the fourth-year medical student graduation ceremony in May, even though I have 2 more years. The program includes every phase of my experience, including the sales employment he thought was settling. As I watch them walk across the stage in their white coats, I imagine myself receiving my diploma in 2 years. The ceremony feels long, but I don't mind because I keep thinking about how close I came to never experiencing this. After the ceremony, a woman approaches me in the lobby. She's wearing her new white coat and holding her diploma. Her name is Amanda. She heard me speak at the Women in Medicine panel 2 years ago about almost quitting medical school because someone told me I wasn't capable. She was struggling that semester and seriously considering dropping out because her family kept telling her she was wasting her time. Says, my narrative about proving Jake incorrect inspired her to continue. Now she's graduating and starting pediatric residency. I start crying and hug her, and she thanks me for being honest about how hard it was. In June, Olivia calls me to get coffee. She says knowing that someone else fought through doubt and made it gave her license to fight. After sitting down, she tells me Jake was demoted from his sales manager position after multiple women complained about his attitude and comments. She says the complaints weren't about me, but about how he treats female colleagues. Olivia says she reviewed all the complaints and talked to HR, and they decided he needed to step back from management. He's been moved to a sales position with no direct reports. She says she's mandated respect and workplace equality training for all managers, and several women have told her they feel more comfortable speaking up. I don't enjoy Jake's struggles, which is mostly true, but I do like knowing that his behavior finally caught up with him. In July, my research mentor emails me to come to her lab, and when I arrive, she offers me a position for my entire 4th year. Olivia says the company culture has changed significantly since I started, and she credits me with showing them that expertise matters more than gender. She says she's received a grant to study medical device safety using real-world usage data, which is exactly what I've been doing in my research. The grant will pay for me to quit my sales job and focus on school and research, which relieves me because balancing work and school has been difficult but manageable. She says the research will strengthen my residency applications and give me more publications. I accept immediately and tell Michael I need to resign from the company. He's not surprised and seems happy for me. He hosts a goodbye party with the entire sales team, who take turns sharing stories about what I taught them. One man says, I'm the reason he went back to school to get his nursing degree. Another woman says, watching me balance everything made her realize she could go back for her MBA. Michael makes a speech about how I changed the company's sales and professional development strategy, and says hiring me was one of his best decisions. In September, my surgery rotation begins, and on the 2nd week, I scrub in on a cardiac procedure. The patient needs a valve replacement, and I watch the surgeon as she performs. I know every detail about her catheter system, which I used to sell. Halfway through the procedure, she pauses and asks me about device placement. She says she knows my background and wants my opinion on whether the angle looks right. I study the monitor that shows the catheter position and suggest adjusting it slightly based on the device specifications I remember. After following my advice, the image quality improves immediately, and the procedure goes smoothly. In the hallway, she removes her surgical cap and tells me I'll be a great surgeon because most medical students see devices as tools, but I understand engineering and limitations. In October, Emily calls me crying, but they're happy tears. She says she got her first accounting job at a downtown firm. After 10 years as an administrative assistant, she finally has a job that uses her skills and interests. She says watching me fight for my dreams gave her permission to fight for hers. I'm proud of her courage, and she says our family doesn't understand why she's making things harder for herself. But her new boyfriend, who met her at night classes and is studying to be a teacher, supports her. She says he likes her ambition and smartness, and I'm glad she found someone who appreciates her instead of trying to limit her. I spend November working on my residency applications, which are overwhelming but exciting. My application includes my published device safety research, detailed descriptions of my medical sales background, and letters of recommendation from doctors who saw me in both roles. She explains, my diverse background distinguishes me from other medical school applicants. I think about how Jake encouraged me to go into hospitality management, and now I'm applying to one of the country's most competitive residency programs. I feel confident about my future and who I am. The surgical device innovation department feels different from the other floors. When I walk into the hospital on my first day of residency, the walls are covered with blueprints and prototype sketches, and residents can test equipment modifications in a lab. My attending physician, Dr. Harris, meets me in her office and tells me she requested me because my published research on improving surgical device design caught her attention, and my sales experience and clinical training are perfect for their program. I feel proud as she hands me my schedule and tells me I'll be dividing my time between surgeries, research projects, and device manufacturer consulting. Even the painful ones, like leaving Jake and balancing school and sales, led to this moment. Dr. Harris shows me my desk in the residence area and introduces me to the team, who are friendly and excited to have someone who understands both medicine and business. During lunch, Emily texts me with a photo of her standing in front of an office door with her name and the title Junior Accountant. I save the photo and print and frame it later that week to place next to my medical school diploma on my apartment wall. She says we both made it to where we were supposed to be all along, and is proud of us for not giving up. 6 months later, I'm thriving in ways I never imagined possible, and contributing to research that will change surgical outcomes for thousands of patients. I'm working on device modifications surgeons want. I think about the version of myself who almost enrolled in hospitality management to save a relationship with someone who thought my brain was too female for complex subjects. I'm glad I had the courage to choose myself instead, because this life is challenging, demanding, and fulfilling. Just like I was meant to live it. Having one good concept is what matters. My family exploited me for years. After my mom said, "We don't want to see your face at her graduation," I cut ties and took back my life. My mom didn't soften her tone. She didn't recoil. "We don't want to see your face at her graduation." She said this without hesitation or delay, just staring at me through the frozen grid of our family Zoom call. In her tiny square, my sister grinned. My dad turned his head away. Every year I'd carried them in silence, they suddenly shattered inside of me. I refrained from arguing. I did not inquire as to why. I just grabbed the one item they never thought I would take back. Tell me where you are watching from before I tell you what occurred next. And tell the truth. What would you have done? For the majority of my existence, I, Olivia, believed that maintaining peace required remaining silent. The individual who provided the most was supposed to ask for the least in a household where love was assessed in terms of duties. My mother, Catherine, was at the center of everything, and everyone else revolved around her. My father, Daniel, remained unquestioningly in her gravity, and although I learnt to live in the shade, my younger sister Sophia flourished in that warmth. In my 20s, I relocated to Los Angeles, in order to pursue a profession in finance technology and a form of independence that I was still unfamiliar with. However, the familial pattern remained the same even when viewed from 1,000 miles distant. It began the week I was hired for the first time. Catherine called, sounding simultaneously exhausted and proud. She asked if I could assist once, saying that Sophia's tuition bill had arrived. Before giving it a second thought, I answered sure. One had evolved into every semester book and off-campus expense she need to succeed by the conclusion of that year. Sophia never expressed gratitude to me. Catherine ceased to act as though it was only temporary. Daniel remained mute, keeping the peace. Every time I hesitated, my mother would express dissatisfaction in a way that made you feel unappreciative for even asking. One Christmas, I recall saving money to buy Sophia a laptop so she could continue her education. Catherine simply chuckled quietly and said, "Maybe next year, sweetie." I swallowed the fire in my chest and told myself it didn't matter, but it did. She unwrapped it, looked at the screen, and said, "Oh, I thought it was the higher model." It all did. Months later, I received the message that finally made a difference in my life. During a visit, Catherine left her phone on the counter, and my aunt texted her. "Because she is naive, she pays." With a single sentence and a happy expression, my mother said, "Let her. Some people were born to provide for their families." I never went up to her. I simply hid the knowledge beneath my clothes like a bruise. Nevertheless, I paid because I believed that if I continued to be helpful, I could ultimately feel like I belonged. I could feel that old bruise throbbing when the Zoom call opened, and I saw the familiar tightness in Catherine's jaw, and the practiced sympathy in Sophia's eyes. But I was unaware that this one time, I wouldn't choke it back. The days preceding that Zoom call were strange, like the atmosphere before a storm. Sophia had been more reserved than normal, which never signified tranquility but rather scheming. I received a series of cut messages from Catherine inquiring as to whether the subsequent tuition payment cycle had been processed. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't. I persuaded myself that I had always helped. Therefore it was natural. But I had a tight, uncomfortable feeling in my chest. When my bank reported suspicious activities, the uneasiness became apparent. A cool voice clarified that multiple big purchases had been made using a card in my name that I had forgotten existed. A bracelet, designer shoes, and a weekend shopping binge that cost over $3,500. I felt sick to my stomach. Years ago, the card was intended to be used for groceries. Since then, I hadn't touched it. Before I called, I knew who had. When I mentioned it, Catherine chuckled. "You're exaggerating." For her graduation, Sophia required a few items. Don't spoil the occasion, destroy the moment, as though I were the one stealing from them. I checked my accounts later that night, still trembling. 2 further cards had been covertly maxed out, both in my name. Payments that I had never authorized. I had never utilized any subscriptions. Every charge was connected to either one of Sophia's accounts or the address of my family. My breath came in short gasps. This was not negligence. This was anticipated. The habit of entitlement solidified. Then came the last punch. A screenshot from Sophia's group conversation was inadvertently shared. At the top is my name. Below is her message. "Don't stress over money. That's why Olivia exists. In essence, she is our cash cow." I felt something inside of me become motionless as I gazed at that sentence for a long time. Their faces filled the screen like a panel of judges when the Zoom call began the following evening. Catherine wasted no time, her voice cut with power. "We don't want to see your face at her graduation," she stated. With her arms crossed as if she had earned the right to ban me, Sophia sat smugly beside her, while Catherine waved a hand. I maintained my composure despite my throat tightening. "This isn't about you. Don't make it about you. Sophia needs a peaceful day." Sophia responded. "Yeah, you always make everything tense. Just stay home. It's better for everyone." Daniel remained silent while glancing at the ground. That kind of rejection would have devastated me once. I would have expressed regret, and made an effort to resolve any imagined issue they had caused. However, the years of silent taking, the insult, and the robbery all fit together like a lock. My voice sounded steady and low. "After that, you won't ever see my money again." The words didn't seem to make sense, and Catherine blinked. Sophia sneered. However, I meant each and every sound. I didn't just utter that sentence. I was done living the life it left behind. The apartment seemed oddly silent when the Zoom conversation finished, as though the walls themselves were watching to see what I would do. I didn't rush to make any repairs for the first time in years. I didn't repeat anything they had said in an attempt to make them feel better. Sitting there, I allowed the silence to envelope me like a blanket I had forgotten I had. I opened my laptop after that. As I logged into the tuition portal, the glow of the screen swept across my desk. With one more semester to go and one more payment due in my name, Sophia's account was bright and anticipatory. For a few period, my fingers hovered, not shaking, just conscious. Knowing that this was the turning point, I called off the idea. One button, one silent click. Years of commitment vanishing in a flash. I then opened my bank's dashboard. My identity is linked to 2 cards, all of which have actions that I have never authorized. Purchases connected to the family home, Catherine's shipping address, or Sophia's email. One by one, I froze each account while the system responded with confirmations. Then, without their consent, I changed the passwords they had been using for years, and unplugged Sophia's phone and Catherine's tablet. Anger did not feel like the serenity in my chest. It was a sense of clarity. Then, in order to see the truth presented clearly, I went through all of the payments, bills, and statements to create a clean folder of evidence. This included every transaction, and every assumption they had made about my position in their lives. But I did not do so to weaponize it. Support wasn't provided. It was expectation disguised as entitlement. I discovered an audio note that I had forgotten existed when organizing the files. It had been inadvertently recorded during a speaker call months prior. Catherine's tone was lighthearted and humorous. In the background, Sophia was laughing. Catherine said she would pay. Sophia answered. She always pays. Then a joke that I had never heard before. In essence, it's her goal. I let the words flow through me as I slowly closed the file. Not to be hurtful, but to let me know that the family I had been holding onto didn't fit reality. On the table, my phone buzzed. Did the payment process go through, Sophia? I am unable to view it. Don't act like a child, Catherine. Daniel, fix this. Simply take a breath. Don't exacerbate the situation. Even worse, as like saying no was the worst thing I'd ever done. I didn't answer. Rather, I canceled all of my shared subscriptions, including those for music, streaming, food delivery, and other services connected to my accounts. I was surprised by how long the list was. Without hesitation, I ended each one. The sky outside had turned a gentle navy blue. By the time I got up, standing barefoot on the chilly floor and inhaling air that tasted unusually fresh, made me feel lighter than I had in years. They believed I would remain small if they excluded me from a celebration. However, it only created space for me to go outside at last. It took Catherine 2 days to insist on another family gathering. Her email's subject line stated urgent, but it was the kind of urgency individuals employ when they're in danger rather than when they've lost control. More out of curiosity than obligation, I clicked on the Zoom link. I was curious to see how far they would push. Another portion was curious about my progress. They were all there when the screen loaded. Like she always did. Catherine sat in the middle, well-framed, her chin raised as though she were in charge of something significant. Beside her, Sophia relaxed, her makeup immaculate, her eyes tight with annoyance rather than appreciation. Daniel appeared smaller than I remembered, hovering close to the rear of the living room with his hands in his pockets. At last, Catherine became irate, acting as though I was running late. We need to address your behavior. My actions? Naturally. I remained silent. For me, silence was a new language, one they hadn't yet figured out, she added. The graduation of Sophia is fewer than 2 weeks away. She won't be allowed to walk until the remaining amount is paid. You are aware of this. Fix it. You've always managed it. Sophia rolled her eyes. I don't get why you're making this a big deal. You're the one with the career. Just do what you always do. For a split second, I questioned whether they actually failed to notice it. The entitlement, the deception, the steal. Or perhaps they were aware of it all along and chose to ignore it. Then something clicked. Their blindness had never been the issue. I had been willing to do it. Calmly, I'm not paying, I said. Disbelief curled Catherine's lips. Don't be ridiculous. You're angry, fine, but don't sabotage your sister out of spite. I'm not sabotaging her, I answered. Daniel finally raised his head and said, I'm stepping out of a role I never agreed to play. Let's not escalate. We can talk this through. Talk? I murmured quietly. You never talk. You all tell. Sophia gave a harsh sneer. This is so dramatic. You act like we've done something to you. On my screen, I pressed a button. My folder opened in a window. Bills, statements, and payments arranged in silent, damning rows. Then Catherine demanded, What is this? The truth, I said. I let the number spoke first by sharing my screen. The cards connected to Sophia's email, the unapproved purchases, the recurring charges, the shipping addresses that correspond to the family residence, and the grocery-only card used for upscale purchases. Sophia's lips clenched. Something flickered across Catherine's eyes, either terror or recognition, but her face stayed rigid. Daniel took a step toward the camera. Olivia. You could have just talked to us. I tried, I muttered. For years. I selected a different file. The sound note was played. All of our speakers echoed Catherine's voice. Then Sophia laughed. She'll pay. The sentence that had become embedded in me like a splinter was, she always pays. It's basically her purpose. There was silence at the end of the recording. Even Sophia's faith in her performance wavered. It was Catherine who first discovered her voice. I can't believe you recorded us. I didn't, I said. I said it was automatic. However, I paid attention. Sophia fiercely folded her arms. You're blowing this out of proportion. Proportion? I said once more. You stole my identity, you used my credit. You impersonated me to reinstate the tuition plan. The school emailed me about it. That hit hard. Sophia's cheeks turned scarlet. That was a misunderstanding. It was fraud. I interrupted, remaining composed. And I'm choosing not to press charges. For now, I said. Catherine lost her temper. Charges against your own sister? What is wrong with you? I said. What's wrong? Is that you raised her to believe she could do it? At last, Daniel's voice was hardly audible above a whisper. Olivia, we didn't know it got this far. Yes, you did, I replied. You just didn't want to stop it. Catherine's hand smacked into the table. Enough. You are not destroying this family because of a few misunderstandings. Sophia deserves her moment. You owe it to us. Too. My voice was calm and quiet as I leaned forward. I don't owe you anything. They felt the impact of the sentence. Sophia blinked quickly. So, you're just going to let me look stupid on graduation day. You're an adult, I remarked. Your education is your responsibility. Angrily, Catherine shook her head. You've changed. This isn't you. No, she was told. This is me without your script. The call became silent for a time, the kind of quiet that makes all that words have attempted to conceal clear. Then Catherine tried one final strategy, the one she knew the best. If you walk away now, don't expect this family to welcome you back. I sensed the old conditioned terror of losing them rising. Then something stronger took its place as it vanished. I'm not walking away from family, I replied. I'm walking away from people who never acted like mine. With a start, Sophia got up and knocked something over. You're selfish, ungrateful. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous of the person who weaponized my generosity. If it hadn't been so depressing, it would have been humorous. I hope someday, I whispered quietly, you understand the difference between support and exploitation. Catherine gave me a scowl as though hatred could compel obedience on its own. You'll regret this. Maybe once I would have, I replied, but not now. I already did my regretting. As their expressions merged into a single, frantic scene, I hovered over the leave meeting button and said, I'm done. Fear, perplexity, and anger were all mixed together to create the identical look they had worn each time their composure faltered. I didn't shrink for the first time. I wish you well, I said. But I'm finished being the one who pays for your peace. I then pressed the button. The screen darkened. After the call ended, something started for the first time in my life. The echo of that call faded into an odd silence in the weeks that followed. No more guilt-ridden messages. No more requests. Just silence, sharp at first, then strangely calm. The first official update came from the university, which sent a kind message stating that Sophia would not be allowed to attend the ceremony because of unpaid bills, and an effort to impersonate someone on the account. Although they didn't use my name, it was obvious what they meant. At last, someone had told her no. Jondo, 9. I didn't rejoice. I refrained from gloating. I simply allowed the burden of 6 years to fade from my shoulders as I sat in my Los Angeles apartment, sunlight streaming across the hardwood floor. Daniel arrived without warning a few days later. He appeared to be unsure if he would be permitted entry as he stood in the foyer. He didn't try to give me a hug when I opened the door, he simply had a worn-out appearance. She's devastated, he remarked. Your mother? She's pretending everything's fine, but it's not. We didn't realize how much we leaned on you. I did not dispute. I didn't calm him down. He nodded slowly when I continued. You leaned because I never stepped aside. I shook my head and asked, are you coming back? Unless the terms are altered. No. He made no attempt to sway my opinion. He might have comprehended for the first time. He departed with a silent farewell that felt more like a shift than an end. The silence he left behind seemed like mine. For once. I used to think that having family meant being resilient, and that loving them meant allowing myself to be exhausted. However, I realized that love without respect isn't love at all the day they told me I wasn't welcome. So I quietly and permanently left. And I discovered something I had been lacking all my life myself in that area. Please subscribe and leave a comment if any portion of my journey resonates with you so that you don't have to face it alone. My husband hid millions assets, called the house a teardown, then tried to buy it back for $250,000. I exposed his lies and took him to court. When did you discover your ex's hefty settlement was worth millions? Last March, my husband Ryan presented me with divorce papers signed by his lawyer after 20 years of marriage. Focus on my career. You hinder me. You anticipated this. He waited tables at 3 restaurants while I paid off his medical school loans. Man whose residency I supported by working double shifts while pregnant. He became chief of surgery as I raised our kids alone, missing recitals, games, and parent-teacher conferences. He made an insulting settlement. The Millbrook house his grandma bequeathed him. A 1990 Ford truck with 250,000 miles and $1,000 monthly alimony for 2.5 years. End of story. Take or leave. But that house requires major repairs. New roof, plumbing, likely termites. Cracked foundation. Basically a teardown. Thank goodness I'm giving you anything. The lawyer claimed battling would cost me more than I'd gain. Ryan concealed assets and shifted money for months. His salary was deducted on paper. Ryan was already uploading vineyard weekend photos with his 26-year-old surgical resident. After 2 decades as his support system, secretary, therapist and mother, I was 43 without a career. I accepted. 2.5 hours from the city, the house was in the middle of nothing. The eroding foundation stones indicate an 1835 building with 4 rooms, no insulation, wood burner heating, and rats in the walls. I contacted a realtor who laughed. Maybe $65,000 if lucky. More like $40,000 for the land after demolition. Wow, generous. The place is a disaster. I had nowhere else. California housed my sister. My parents left. In April, I relocated to slowly repair it up and maybe acquire $80,000 to start again somewhere cheap. Then I found the letters in the attic. Hidden under the floorboards in an old leather trunk were hundreds of them tied with faded ribbon. Each addressed to Samuel Montgomery. The ink was readable on yellow brittle paper. Googled him. None. But the return addresses were intriguing. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Garrison, Truth, Brown. My hands shook. I drove to the County History Society that afternoon. Margaret, an elderly historian, paled as I showed her one letter. This is Belworth House. Actually own Belworth House? It was presumed destroyed in the 1920s. It burnt. Samuel Montgomery operated the state's main everyone believed underground railroad station. These letters are invaluable. This alters all we know about this region's network. State Historical Committee called me that night. They wanted to go right away. The Smithsonian, National Park Service, Yale University and Museum of African American History phoned next. By May, 3 government organizations and 2 universities bid for the land. State bid $2.5 million. Park Service promised $2 million. The Smithsonian Partnership offered $2.8 million plus consultation fees for repair. Yale offered $2 million in research. Ryan called me casually in June. Hello, checking in. I heard you're renovating grandmother's house. That going? Neighbors reported seeing many automobiles. Fine. Good enough. Fixing up. Actually, I thought. That house is nostalgic. Maybe we should reconsider the settlement. I could buy it from you. Give you better. Maybe a city condo, 2 bedrooms, a doorman, and more convenient. Played dumb. House sweet. I'm growing fond of country living. The place is quiet. 2 days later, his lawyer called. Dr. Haywood offers $250,000 for Millbrook. That's treble its value. Great generosity. That money could buy anything livable. I declined. Ryan called again, enraged. My grandmother owned that house. Family heritage. You're mean. No right to keep it. Strange that you gave me non-family heritage 6 months ago. Desperate calls. $350,000. $400,000. $500,000. His new girlfriend texted me. Kindly be reasonable. Ryan's grandmother wants the family home. This hurts him. Your actions break his grandmother.